dark eschatonic musings on genetic modification, Frankenscience, prophetic resonances with conceptions such as the abomination that causes desolation, Antichrist, GMO Eucharist, GMO Jesus. Here are some comments on a post by church militant St. Michael's Media. The Eucharist is actually the one Christ, complete with his risen body and sacred blood, that's in living union with his immortal soul and divine personhood. It's not really a what, but a who. This blessed sacrament is the same eternal Son of God who clothed himself with humanity in Mary's womb 2,000 years ago, died and rose from the dead. The Eucharist is thus the whole Christ, who is truly and substantially present on the altar, teaches the 16th century Council of Trent. By Christ's words of consecration, offered through the priest at Mass, the bread and wine become the substance of Christ's body and blood. This is called transubstantiation. Eucharistic miracles have borne witness to this supernatural truth throughout the centuries and continue to do so. The Eucharist is also called Holy Communion because in this way, Catholics receive Christ in his risen body. Reception of the smallest particle of what once was bread, or the smallest drop of what once was wine, is truly the reception of Christ, wholly and entirely. Then it says read more here. Link is provided. Then there's a compelling sculptural, a photo of a sculpture of Christ bearing the cross, Jesus bearing the cross. And anyway, with the link provided. Here's my commentary. As an integral ecosophical traditionalist, the burning issues troubling my mind are ultimately fundamental to all of life. Among these damnably persistent vexing devils are matters pertaining to the ongoing toxic irradiation and poisoning of the earth, the transgenic, as in the days of Noah, imprudent and often pathogenic commingling of food-plant species genetics, along with other Frankenscience practices, etc., including transgenic hybridization in the lab of humanoid chimera embryos and such. To bridge the eon with the Eucharist in the deepest transubstantiative salvific sense would, to my perceptions, also necessitate a purity of standards in all substances pre-consecration, that such not be contaminated or mixed in any manners contrary to scriptural code and to tradition. Excuse me. Tradition. Can the basic foundational elements of life be corrupted and yet still consecrated by the priestly invocation if the source is tainted and profaned by trans-species, transgenics, and industrial poisons? Would these matters not at least be implicit, matters pertaining to this, at least be implicit any sort of regulations, should insert there, at least be implicit in traditional Catholic social doctrine as applied to agriculture? There must at least be some venerable tradition or doctrine or historical cultural model within Christendom that could be called upon here, cited as an example. I know that other traditions, Judaism and Shinto come to mind immediately, that have doctrines pertaining to ritual purity of sources of sacred meals, etc. Catholicism and the Orthodox Christian faiths do as well. The Holy Eucharist certainly deserves at least as much profound consideration, even in preparation and pre-consecration in all of the elements of from which it is prepared. Certainly. I would think that such considerations would be foremost among any that don't subscribe to extreme forms of dualism and suggest that, that their mental belief or their dogma has total transcendence and takes precedence in all things above actual material reality. If there isn't an integral model within which, the kingdom of heaven is given dominion upon the earth, then I don't really see the value in any tradition. So if these sorts of issues aren't encountered head on by the church or any faith, I see that these sorts of issues, these progressive scientific programs and what have you, social engineering included, the whole civilizational infrastructure, really. If religion doesn't in some way integrally address and correct faulty models that are creating immense suffering and destroying life, then of what value is any religion or tradition?